I'm just going to really quickly in a moment go through some of the updates for the new GCSE and look at the IGCSE offer as well. And I'll then be taking you on a sort of full walkthrough of the LanguageNut secondary product. I know that we've got people here today, some of whom are currently using our secondary resources. Some of you might have never seen LanguageNut before. This will be your first walkthrough. I know as well with the changes to the new GCSE that we might have some people here today who are currently teaching the MFL GCSE who are considering either a change of exam board or a change to the IGCSE. Whereas we also have people who are currently on IGCSE who are continuing to go on with that, and we also might have the odd IB and MYP teacher as well. So a range of teachers I know joining us today, and I hope what you'll get from this session is a feeling of the fact that LanguageNut really does cater to you all, and that we do have something for everyone on the platform. So I'll be showing you that with our full walkthrough. And as I said at the beginning, we will make sure that we leave a bit of time towards the end of the session for a Q&A. You'll see in Teams there's a Q&A option. So if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, do just type those in and send those off. And as I said, my colleague Elaine, who's our Director for Education, will be taking note of those and grilling me at the end. So as I said, we look forward to that then. So without further ado, just looking at the new GCSE. So obviously at the moment, the current year 10 and 11 are still on what is now known as the legacy GCSE, and the last exam for that will be in 2025. And then the new GCSE, for which we have specifications for AQA and Edexcel, will affect the current year 9 and below, and will start teaching this September in 2024. One of the key points and the key sort of features of the new GCSE is the fact that it's based off this word list. There'll be 1,200 words at the foundation level and 1,700 at the higher level. And both exam boards will have had to choose their vocab list. They will have had to choose 85% of the words on their vocab lists will have come from the most frequent top 2,000 words in that language. They'll also be including 30 multi-word phrases and 20 cultural items. Those specifications are now ready. We've had a sort of deep dive of those and have made sure that we have both the vocabulary from the new GCSE as well as updated exam skills on our platform to reflect those vocabulary lists, as well as the grammar, which also has been based off requirements from the Department for Education. As far as skills are concerned, we still know that the new GCSE will be based around 4 papers, so you'll still have your reading, listening, writing and speaking exams. However, there'll be a slightly different sort of bunch of skills assessed in that. For example, we'll be adding read aloud and dictation will be now included. Read aloud obviously in the speaking exam, dictation in the listening. And another thing that will be different is the fact that all questions and prompts will be in English. So for those of you who've seen our platform at the moment, in our legacy resources and our IGCSE, we have the option for you to switch the language of the questions. That will not necessarily be there for our new GCSE resources. That's not going to be something that students are required to do. So some various changes that I'm sure you'll be getting to grips with if you're planning to continue with this new GCSE curriculum. And just moving on from that, as I said, I know that we'll have people here who are considering a move to the IGCSE. We know that Pearson and Edexcel are not going to be selling their resources, so their textbooks, into the UAE. So obviously for us, we have written new resources for the GCSE. We know that that's still an option, and therefore we hope that sort of resources like ours can sort of potentially plug that gap. So we've got here just a sort of overview of the kind of topics that you'll be seeing on the new GCSE for both AQA and Pearson Edexcel, and then we also have topics on the sort of main IGCSE exam boards, so Cambridge and Pearson Edexcel. And as you can see, I think quite a lot of them overlap. I think there are only so many ways that you can sort of say education and employment, and so a lot of those topics will be common across them all, which is why those LanguageNut topics that we currently have in our IGCSE product and our legacy, which are the same, we believe will still fully cover things like the IGCSE, and so we have a list of topics there on the right hand side, which are our LanguageNut topics for Key Stage 4, which will remain in the platform, and I'll be showing you in just a moment. So I think, as you can see, we do sort of cover those topics, sort of full range of those specifications, and as I'll show you in a moment, we also have the kind of activities that you would expect to see for those exam boards and those qualifications as well. that's a brief overview of the topics. As I said, I'm now going to move on into a sort of demonstration of our product and what we have on offer. So hopefully you can see my screen now, which is what you would see when you would log into the platform. So these are the different products that we have available. As I said, we also have Arabic, which is on this next page, and that will be going through with Hisham next week. You can see I will be mainly talking about secondary today, but we do have the IGCSE products. We've partnered up with textbooks for those. So the main difference between the secondary product and our IGCSE is the fact that we have the vocabulary for that qualification embedded within the platform. We also do have an A level and an IB product, so for higher level learners in French and Spanish. We have primary resources, both for sort of open resources for multiple languages and a guided course for French and Spanish, for sort of teachers with who don't have a speciality in the language. And we also have an EAL product, so plenty for you to look at. If you do want to trial, as I said, you can trial as many of these products as you want. Just let our team know when you do get in touch which products you'd be interested in having a look at, and they can sort that out for you. As I mentioned before, we do run competitions, so everything that students do in the platform they get points for, and what they will do when you sign up your school, you will get a login as a teacher. Students will also get their logins, which they'll access the site through the browser, and everything that they do in the platform earns them points, which means that when we go do our global competitions like the one we have at the moment, students will gain points that will go towards the sort of overall point score for their schools. And we do hand out prizes for sort of schools and individual students based off these competitions that we run sort of a couple of times a year. It's a really great opportunity to get students involved, build that engagement, and get them really excited about using the platform. And we're handing out sort of £50 Amazon vouchers or $50 Amazon vouchers for those students who come at the top of our leaderboard. And as you can see, this is currently our leaderboard for Middle East, with our GEMS college doing very well up there at the top. So as I said, I'm going to take you into secondary for now. I'm looking at French today, as that's my specialism. But we also have obviously the Italian, Spanish, German and Mandarin resources, and these three core languages, the French, German and Spanish, we have obviously uploaded new resources for those over the course of the last year to reflect the new GCSE specifications. So just taking you into French, this is what you would see as a teacher. So you can see once again that sort of leaderboard is reinforced, and both you and the students would see this when you logged in. You can see your school ranking, classes lead. You can also set up competitions within your school as well if you want to. And as a teacher, you get this admin area, whereas as a student, instead of the admin area, that would be where you see your assignments. So if you were set an assignment either to do in class or in your own time, that is where students would access those assignments. I'll be going through a little bit through the admin area a little bit later on, but for now we'll look at sort of the bread and butter of the platform, which is our resources. So you can see we've split our resources into 5 areas. We have our vocab trainer and AI chat. We have our exam skills area, which is sort of area where we've seen the most change based on the new GCSE. We have our sentences and chunks area, our phonics, and our grammar and verbs. Now, in terms of the differences between our sort of secondary product and our IGCSE, everything except the exam skills here and our vocab trainer will be very similar. So I'll show you some of them, and as I said, if you're depending on which qualification you're looking at doing and which product you'll be interested in, they will be the same. So looking at our vocab trainer, as you can see, if you're planning on continuing with the new GCSE, we have already uploaded the new GCSE exam board vocabulary. That's for French, Spanish and German, and we've kept the legacy exam board vocabulary as well. As you'll see in a moment, as a sort of language nut teacher or school, you do have the option to upload your own content. So if you do have specific vocabulary lists that you want your students to work through, you can go in through the admin area and you can add them to your My Content section, and those vocabulary items will then sort of automatically integrate with our software, so that students can do all of the activities that we have on our platform with the content that you have chosen. And then we also have our sort of language nut vocabulary across the sort of main topics, the 20 topics that I showed you just now, where we have sort of overarching topics, and then we have subtopics within that for our vocabulary as well. And you can see the progress as a student for how we're doing within that area as you go along. So if I just take you into the classroom vocabulary section, so this is what every student will see when they go into the vocabulary area. They have this learn, practice, quiz flow. We also have our brand new AI chat feature where students can sort of take words from sort of the word level and practice putting them into sentences, where they then receive automatic feedback from our sort of AI chat bot. But in the learn section, they can play the vocabulary as well as the English. And they can really get used to the vocabulary. Obviously, what with the new GCSE, this focus on the vocabulary, it is so important that students have an area where they can get really confident with both the pronunciation and the meaning of these words. And so if you want to show this as a front of class, you can make that bigger, but you can also play them as flashcards, and you can get rid of the sort of support language if you want to as well. In terms of practicing the vocabulary, we have a range of activities, so students can practice the vocabulary over all 4 key skills. So that really starts from building those receptive skills with the reading and listening tasks up to those more productive skills where we have writing and speaking. I'll show you a couple of examples of the activities. So one of the reading activities that we know students really enjoy is our word pop game. So in this game, they read the support language exercise book on the flashcard in the middle, and they have to find the correct bubble with the correct translation in it. So once they've got that correct, it moves on to the next one. That said, as we're in the practice area, if students get something wrong, they get another chance to get that sort of right next time. And if they get it wrong again, it's then moved to the back of the pack. So that they then can have one last go at the end. So it really sort of gets them used to sort of seeing that vocabulary, gives them plenty of chances in the practice area to get that right or wrong. In our writing area in our vocab trainer, we sort of have slightly more sort of standard and traditional vocab test style activities. So if you're really just looking for whether or not students have properly learnt those words from English into the target language, this is the area where they would then, again, with automatic marking, type in their answer, and we have a full range of characters on the keyboard as well to help them, and they will then be automatically marked on how they've done with that. As you can see, once again, if they get it wrong, they'll be then given a chance to have another go. Once students have had a chance to practice, they can then also quiz themselves. The only difference in our quiz area is that they only get one go. So in our listening area for the quiz, for example, they can listen to the vocabulary item that they need to translate, and then they can click on the correct answer. And obviously if they get it wrong, they just get it wrong and they're moved on to the next one, and that's how they gain their points. All of these activities in the vocab trainer, as well as many of the other activities on the platform, like our exam skills, can be quick assigned. There are 2 ways that you can set assignments. One is through this quick assign area, and the other is through our admin area in the assignment section. So the quick assign is really nice if you've been in class, if you have devices in your school and you've been going through a vocabulary set together as a class. If you're able to get students on devices there and then, this is a really nice point at which you could just quick assign it, which then means that you can then quickly choose a due date and set that set of vocabulary across however many of the practice activities you want to a particular class, and that will then go automatically into their assignment area, and so you can get them actually practicing in real time in the class, so you can get them working at their own pace as well. If you know that you have students that need extra practice or students that need sort of additional sets set to them, you also have the option to set that vocabulary to individual students. So you don't have to set it to an entire class, you can set it to individuals who need either more support or more challenge. Another nice feature, particularly with the vocabulary learning that we have, is that if you have students that you suspect might not have that drive to do as much practice, you can tick this button, force practice, which means that they have to complete practice activities before they go straight through to the quiz, which will sort of really reinforces that practice activity. And equally, if you have students, particularly if it's a sort of low stakes assignment, if you have students who you know are a bit more anxious about their mark, who really want that chance to improve it, you can tick the repeat assignment option, and they will then have the option, if they're not happy with the grade that they receive at the end of their quiz, they can have another go if they want to. So that's quick assign, and that works the same across any of the areas where you see that. And the final thing that I'll show you in this area is our printables, which at the moment are being worked on. So there'll soon be printables for all of our exam skills activities, as well as additional printables for vocabulary and our grammar and verb section, so that if you want to get students doing these things off device in lessons, then you can do that nice and easily. And so at the moment we have these activities. If you wanted students, or if you have students who appreciate seeing that physical list, you can go into our printable area, select as many of the words in the set as you want, and you can download that as a printable and then print them for it. And that's that for them. So that is our vocabulary trainer. As I said, the difference in the IGCSE product would be that obviously that vocabulary specific textbook that you're and the curriculum that you are studying, and we do also have the My Content function. And if I quickly go into our exam skills area now, so obviously this is one of the areas that has sort of seen the most change over the last year. We're aware of the fact that not all schools will be moving on with this new GCSE curriculum. However, we do have obviously the ability at the moment for you to access all of them if you're on our secondary product, as well as our legacy resources. So in terms of the legacy, this is where you'll see sort of our original secondary resources. It's also the resources that you will see if you go into the IGCSE product. And so those 20 topics I showed you on the slide previously, this is where these topics come in. The only difference at Key Stage 3 being that we've included some of those sort of slightly more basic topics, such as basic information, countries and nationalities, family members, that you'd expect to see at that Key Stage 3 level. So in the secondary legacy resources, as well as the new AQA and Edexcel, all of our resources are split across those 4 skills: reading, listening, writing and speaking. As I mentioned before, almost everything in the platform is automatically marked. This is the only area where you have some activities that are not automatically marked. So for example, our writing and speaking activities need to be set by you, the teacher, for the students to be able to see them. And the reason that we've done that is just because, you know, one of the things that we think our platform really helps teachers with is that sort of reducing that marking burden. And therefore, because we have these sort of more open-ended tasks like the writing and speaking, we don't want essentially a student going away over a holiday and completing 15 writing tasks and then expecting you to mark that in your time off. So we give you a bit more control over when you want your students to do those tasks. That said, if you want to set them all as an assignment so students can practice them, then that's absolutely fine too. As soon as they've been set as an assignment, students can practice those in their assignments area. So just moving through before I show you what we've got for our new GCSE, just to recover what we've got for IGCSE and legacy, we have everything in our Key Stage 3 and 4 section for each skill is split across 3 difficulty levels. And then within those difficulty levels, we have a number of activities. Now I'm going to move into the new GCSE area in a moment, but just to show you what we have for legacy and IGCSE. For reading, we have true or false, multiple choice and gap fill. For listening, we have true or false, multiple choice, and an activity called Who Said What. Now a lot of these you'll see on the new resources as well. And we also have an open question for writing. And then for speaking, we have an open question, photo description and a conversation, which I'll show you a little bit more of in a moment. But those are the activities that we have here, all of which have been written and recorded by native speakers, so that students get that really sort of authentic experience when they're going through these. So just moving back out to our new resources. So as you can see, what we've done with the new GCSE is we've taken this as a chance to split our exam skills section based on an exam board, which is largely to help teachers like yourselves navigate through the different topics and the different layouts that those exam boards have chosen. So for Edexcel, for example, when you click on Key Stage 4, you'll then be able to see those 6 thematic contexts that have been chosen by the exam board. And then we have then grouped language nut activities into those under those headings in the same similar way to how Edexcel have suggested that one should do so. That said, we know that a topic like weather, because we're looking at these vocabulary lists, a topic like weather, we put it in travel and tourism. However, as you know, it could go anywhere. You could also come across a weather phrase in somewhere like my neighbourhood, or elsewhere as well. So in terms of the activities that we've done, I'll just quickly show you as well. Obviously for AQA, if you're considering taking the AQA new GCSE, we've done the similar thing. We've split it across the 3 sort of key topics that they've chosen, as well as then the subtopics that you'll see in the specification. And then within those subtopics, that is where we have our language nut sort of activities and games. So you'll be able to see here in school, we've got those activities there. So if I just click on school, everything from here will look very similar. We're split across the 4 main skills, once again, reading, listening, writing, speaking. What we've done with the new GCSE, because of that focus on the word list, is we've made sure with the easy level, for all tasks, the easy level only uses vocabulary where possible from that foundation 1200 word list. And then the medium and hard sections contain words from the higher tier list as well. We will also be adding Key Stage 3 resources for the new GCSE, which will sort of follow a similar structure. So in terms of new things that we've got in this area, as well as sort of similar games that you'll have seen in the Legacy and the GCSE product, for reading in our new GCSE area, we've added the open reading comprehension, and we've also added open listening comprehension. And this is a good opportunity now just to show you what one of our reading activities would look like on whatever product you go for. So what you'll see on a reading activity is you'll always have your sort of base text over here on the left-hand side, and students can choose to change the colour of the background if they wish to, and they can also choose to make the writing bigger or smaller, depending on what suits them. What you'll notice in the new GCSE is that we've removed the language switcher. As we know, the rubrics are all going to be in English now for the new GCSE, so we've removed that ability in this particular area. And you can see here with the questions in activities like multiple choice, students will get sort of instant feedback on whether or not they've got the correct answer, and if they get it wrong, then they'll sort of see that as well. And then at the end, they'll get a good summary of what they got right and wrong. Moving out of that, I'll just show you what our new open reading activity looks like. And so if I just dip into that. So this is a teacher marked activity. And again, you've got your base text on the left-hand side. You can change the colour of the background again, all of those things. The only difference is with this teacher marked activity is, although it does need teachers to sort of tick or cross the answers, students will still get, when they've completed the activity, they will still get that kind of view with the suggested answers. So if you have students who are really keen on getting that instant feedback, even if they haven't got the teacher mark straight away, they will be able to see straight away whether or not they've got their answers correct or incorrect. All of these topics, as I said, will soon have printables to go with them, so you'll be able to print them out and hand them out as a class. That goes for the Legacy and the GCSE as well. So moving on into listening, as I said, we've also now got an open listening comprehension activity, which looks very similar to the reading open comprehension, and we've also added dictation to listening. So I'll show you one of our sort of traditional games first of all, which is our Who Said What. So with all of our listening activities, students have control over the sort of playback. And they can pause, and they can also slow the audio down if they want to. And in this particular activity, you can see we've got the timestamps. We've got 3 different speakers, person A, B and C, and the students need to decide, based on the statements on the right-hand side, which person each statement goes with and who said what, essentially. And they'll then drag and drop, I'm just doing this completely randomly, drag and drop the options into the columns that they believe are correct. And once they're happy with it, they can hit submit. And once again, they get that automatic feedback and points based on what they've done. Another thing that we allow with our exam skills for listening is teachers can choose whether or not to share the transcripts with students. So if we click on this button near to the assign, it'll take you straight through to the transcript, and that will show you then all the transcripts for the listening activities in that level. So dictation, open listening, and the multiple choice and who said what, which are based on the same text. And as I said, as a teacher, you can choose whether or not you want to share that with students. I know that sometimes it can be a really nice tool to hold back the transcript, and potentially use it as a marking tool before they've hit send on those goes. And you can also use those transcripts for sort of extension activities or translations, all sorts if you wish. So moving out of Who Said What, I'll quickly show you as our new dictation activity. So depending on whether you're in the easy, medium or hard level, you'll either have 3 sentences, 4 sentences or 5 sentences. Those will then be repeated within the audio 3 times to reflect what will happen in the actual exam. And as you can see, students have a text box where they can then type their answers and hit submit. And as I said, because of the fact that this is such a sort of holistic mark scheme for the dictation, this is not a automatically marked activity and therefore won't be automatically visible to students. So I could just play one of these to give you an idea.
1. Je ne suis pas d'accord avec certaines règles du collège.
So that will then be repeated 3 times, so that they don't, on the dictation activity where they really have to focus on what they're writing down, they don't necessarily have to worry about hopping backwards and forwards with the recording as well. So taking you out of listening, similarly with the new GCSE resources, it's the same as our legacy and GCSE. The writing and the speaking need to be signed by you as the teacher for students to be able to see them. What we've done with the new GCSE, which we're really excited about, is we have made sure that our open questions or our writing questions reflect the SAMs. So the easy level will be a question that reflects the 50-word, in this case, question on the sort of foundation tier paper. We've then made sure that the medium level reflects that crossover question. So what was the 90-word question, essentially, the new version of that. That will then be the medium question, so that kind of catches that sort of top of foundation, bottom of higher. And then finally, our higher level question is that sort of 130 to 150 word task that students would do if they were sitting the higher tier paper. We know that obviously moving forward, as this new exam comes out, there's not going to be as much material, particularly not at the beginning. So we wanted to make sure that we keep these questions, write them in the style of the exam, so that if you want to hold back those SAMS materials and those first pass papers, then you do still have a bank of resources that do really reflect the kind of thing that you would see in the exam. As I said, we have been endorsed by Pearson Edexcel, so hopefully that gives you the confidence that these are the kind of questions that will be coming up on the actual paper as well. So moving out of writing, finally, in our new area, we have speaking, and this is another area where we've added a new task. So we've added a read aloud, whereas we've kept the photo description and the conversation. We've made sure with the photo description that we do have 2 photos, as that is now going to be sort of what students are dealing with in the exam. And the way that our speaking activities work, for those of you who aren't as familiar with the platform, students in this particular case will be shown the photos. They'll be given a minute to have a think about them, or they can just start straight away, and at that stage they will then record their own response to those photos, and if you want, when you assign it, you can add additional questions for them to answer as they go through. They'll hit start now, they'll respond to it, and that will then go through to you into your sort of marking admin area, into your assignments area to mark, and it's a really nice way, particularly for students who are a little bit less confident with speaking and maybe don't want to speak as much in class, to sort of go away and have this as a homework activity, so that they can go away and sort of build that confidence on their own, and sort of you might get a slightly different and slightly more sort of forthcoming response than if you were to put them on the spot in a lesson. We then have a conversation activity where once again students will played the question, which they can then slow down, and again they'll be given a minute to have a think about their answer and then respond to that. And then finally we have our new activity, which is the read aloud, where students are able to read sort of a list of sentences, again based on that topic in this case, using the kind of frameworks that have been set out by the exam boards. We've extended the time a bit for the read aloud because there's a little bit more to think about, and so after 5 minutes the recording will automatically start, but if students are ready they will then hit start now and then read out loud the sentences that they see on the screen on the board. So yes, a few changes in there. As I said, ultimately a lot of the activities are very similar to what we have on our legacy and our GCSE product, but we do have those sort of additional activities to really reflect the new specs. So taking you out of exam skills, and obviously I'm not showing every single activity that we have on the platform today. Please, as I said, do get in touch with inquiries at languagenut.com if you want to sort of have an even more in-depth demo than this. Talk to one of our sales team and get logins so that you and your students can have a look around the platform. And so I'll quickly show you our last three areas, and these areas will be the same regardless of whether or not you're on the secondary product or the IGCSE. So we have our second sentences and chunks area, where we have two different types of activity. We have whole sentence activities and sentence chunks. The whole sentences are a little bit more sort of old-fashioned activities, so fridge magnets and dictation, really getting students to think about the individual words in a sentence and moving from that word level to sentence level. And it's also another nice, a nice place to reinforce that dictation skill that we know is going to be on the new GCSE. And so obviously the dictation in this area is automatically marked, so students will hear and listen to a sentence. And they will then type their answer into the hopefully better than I have done, into the box, hit enter, and they will then be given an automatic mark based on what they've written. As I said, they'll also have the full range of characters depending on the language that they're in, down there at the bottom. And then we also have our sentence chunks activity, and as I said, you'll notice that these topics that we've chosen for these are the same 20 topics that I showed you before. So those sort of topics that you'd expect to see at the secondary level across these different qualifications. And our sentence chunks activities are slightly more gamified. This is another really nice area to sort of bring students to build engagement, and also to get them thinking about how to build sentences, not just sort of word by word, but really getting them to think about how certain items and grammatical items sort of fit together. We have a number of activities here, including forklift. So you can see with this activity, students will read the sentence up at the top, and then they will have to choose the correct chunk of the sentence for the forklift to come and grab and drop onto the tiles. Now with this forklift activity, it doesn't actually matter which order the students choose to write their sentence in or to choose their chunks in. So if they really recognise one of the words, then they can get started, build that confidence, and they can sort of get that started. So they can start at the end if they want, and then if they want to then go back to the beginning, they can. And then what will happen, I'll quickly just get this completely wrong just to show you what will happen when that is the case. So as you can see there, if a student gets that sentence completely wrong, first of all, they get shown the right answer, those chunks get rearranged for them, and then they can listen to the correct answer as well to really reinforce that sentence. They're then given another chance to have another go at the same sentence, which hopefully means that they really get that instant feedback, and they can then build on that mistake and go through. I won't show you any more of these right now. As I said, you can have a look at them if you decide to go for a trial. But as you go through these activities, they get a little bit more prescriptive in terms of the order in which you're supposed to translate the sentence. So as I said, forklift doesn't matter on the order, whereas our ocean cleaner, you have to get it in the right order. So you do get that progression of skills and that progression of difficulty within the activities as well. So moving out of sentences and chunks, another favourite area I know for lots of particularly our younger students is our phonics area, where we do have a lot more sort of gamified activities. The idea with our phonics area, and for those of you who might have seen it in the past, you'll notice we've added recently 5 new pairs of sounds, again to sort of reflect the guidelines sort of set out by the DfE. Just to make sure that we're capturing that sort of more of a focus on that read aloud and phonics and pronunciation at this level, making sure that we've got as much to support you and your students as possible. The idea is that these phonics are based on sort of pairs of sounds. So once again, we have the learn, practice, quiz, flow, where students can really get used to the pronunciation and how different sounds are spelt in the language. And then they have a number of really fun activities that they can practice those with. So for example, we have our catapult activity, And I know that these are the kind of areas where you get a lot of students going in and sort of having a go at them off their own backs. They're not necessarily the kind of activities that have to be set as an assignment for students to want to go in and play. So in this one, you can play the audio on either melon, and you decide which one of them has the correct pronunciation of that particular word. And then if you get it correct, you get the chance to fling the catapult at one of the items on the conveyor belt. Once again, if you get it wrong, you'll get another chance to have a go. And so we do find that those are really popular activities with students. And again, we have slightly progressively difficult ones as well. So this is our imposter game, where students can listen to the recording on each of the sheep, and they decide which of the three had the incorrect pronunciation, and will then drag and drop the one that they think is wrong into the pen, and they decide whether or not it's the wool. And as they go through this activity, an extra sheep gets added each time they go up a level, as I said, just ensuring that progression of difficulty as well. So moving out of phonics, the final area that I will show you for now is our grammar and verb section. So with grammar and verbs, we've split them up. Grammar is sort of context-based and based on grammar item, and our verbs are split up by sort of individuals. We have recently added more verbs as well to this section, so we have now 65 verbs across French, and we have 65 also for German, Spanish and Italian. And you can choose the way you go into this, so you can either choose to practice one verb across multiple tenses, or if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see we've got 9 different tenses that you can practice these verbs with, and you can choose, for example, to practice a particular tense across multiple verbs. So you can choose the way you go in, and when you go into that verb, obviously this is changer, present tense. It really gets students used to that conjugation of that verb, so they can once again listen to the different flashcards, get rid of the target language or the support language if they want to, and then they can practice those depending on whether or not it's a compound tense across either 3 or 2 activities. Our jigsaw activity and verb matcher are aimed to get them used to the different pronouns and endings, and then our verb pod activity is similar to the word pod in that it really gets them to sort of type out the correct conjugation, and once again they get that instant feedback based on their spelling, and they'll be able to have another go if they get it wrong. And then finally, our grammar area. We do include our primary grammar in our secondary product, just because the kind of topics that you get introduced to at primary level don't go away at secondary. They're still important. And as you can see in our secondary product, we've broken up our sort of grammar items by about 20 different topics. You can then go into one of those topics and learn sort of more about that particular item in context across 8 different sentences, and you can then practice those once again across 3 different activities. So again, we have the dictation activity, we have a gap fill, as well as our fridge magnets, where students will be forced to have a think about really sort of how they're going to rearrange those words so that they correctly translate the sentence, and then hit submit once they're happy with it. And then move on to the next one as well. So those are, as I said, the different components of the platform. We think it's really thorough, and as I said, really sort of prepares students for all of the different aspects of the exam. As I mentioned before, I haven't been able to show you every single activity on the platform today, but if you do get in touch and want another demo or want to trial them, do please email inquiries@languagenut.com. Before we go to Q&A, I'm not going to give you a full demo of our admin area today, as this has been focused mainly on our resources. However, I will draw your attention to a couple of sort of new features that we've added to our admin area, which is where you as the teacher can really sort of manage what your students and classes are doing. So this is where you can go into your individual classes and set them up. And you can really track what your different students are getting up to, both at the class level and the student level. And one of the great things that we recently added is our gradebook feature. So in your assignments area for this particular class, you can go in, you can see which assignments are active for that class, which assignments you've set them in the past, which is also where you would sort of do any of your marking. So you can really see for each student in that lesson on a particular assignment, how many tasks they've completed, their average score, and how long they're spending on that task. And then you can also through this area access the gradebook for that class as well. So you can select a date range, and so for that particular class you can see over that date range how many assignments have been set, what the class average is, the top score and bottom score, and then if you scroll even further down, you will see for each individual student in the class every assignment that's been set during that period. You'll see for each student how many of the tasks within that assignment they completed, as well as their average score. So a real ability for you, for those of you who maybe haven't seen the platform in as long or looked at it a few years ago, sort of really stepped up our ability to sort of track students' progress within the platform as well. Another area that we have added to recently is our My Content and our content library. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you as teachers have the ability to add your own content to our platform. So if I go for secondary French and I hit create content, you'll be able to see that, so for French secondary, you'd be able to add vocabulary. We also give you the opportunity to add sentence building activities, so our sort of whole sentence activities, the magnets and dictation. You can also add writing questions and speaking questions. So again, this is an area where if you wanted to add more writing tasks or add more read alouds, you could do it through here. And one thing that we've done recently is we have incorporated AI into this area. So with AI sentence building, if I hit next, this will take you through to an area where you could pick a topic, for example, holidays, that would be year 9. And then you can either import your own sentences in a list from your own document, or you can hit create your own sentences with AI. And this is essentially where you would write your prompt. And you can decide the difficulty level at the moment between Key Stage 3 or 4. And then you can choose the number of sentences that you want it to produce and then hit generate. At that stage, it will then create for you a list of the sentences in that tense with the support language there. And once it's ready, you'll then be able to save that. That will then go through to your My Content area and will then also integrate with the games that we have in the platform. This is another area that can be really great if you are sort of teaching EAL, as it will also allow you to do it from the support language, any of the support languages we have on the platform, into English. So you can see here that you have the opportunity, if you're not happy with anything, you can get rid of it. You can also edit anything. We really do think that we really believe in the potential of AI to sort of transform education and transform sort of teachers' marking burdens and workloads. So this is an area that we're really looking to develop, and we're really hoping will be helpful for you as you move forward with the platform. One last thing I'll show you before we move on is our content library. So this is a sort of extension of My Content. So in the content library, you can select a content, you can select a type of content, and you can search for, in this case, a vocabulary set based on family. And you can then see anything that has that verified stamp has been uploaded by us on LanguageNut, but you can also then see anything without that has been added by other teachers on the platform. And when you do add content to the platform, you can choose for it to be public or private, and you can then, as I said, add that. Once you then click on one of those family topics, you can then read through the list, and if you decide it's something that would be useful for you, you can then add that straight to your own My Content area, which sort of saves you the time potentially of writing your own vocabulary list. If you do have any questions, sort of more from the content and specification side of things, please do feel free to drop me an email. It's Fiona@languagenut.com. Any kind of questions on sort of that side of things, I'm more than happy to chat about. So if there is anything that you think of over the next sort of couple of weeks, then do get in touch. But yeah, we hope you found this useful, and yeah, please do get in touch if you fancy having a sort of closer look at the platform. And for those of you who are already using us, I hope you continue to enjoy it, and good luck in the competition. Thank you very much.